Good morning, hello, welcome coffee moaners. Good afternoon. Another day nearer to Christmas. Crimbo, only one more Friday. Only one more Friday after this one. How are we all? How is everyone? Thank you for all of your continual messages regarding my dear Ma, who is currently in hospital. She is, she's struggling with an abscess, internal abscess. Not in her mouth, in her body. But anyway, thank you for all your messages. I left a longer note up on in the members area for trusted and close family guests and members. But yeah, it's very, very fraught, very sort of fragile. She's been in a lot of pain. But anyway, we just, we want to crack on. She would hate to think it was all stopping things anyway, but I will have more updates on her later today as they're we're still waiting for the results of various tests and scans. But good morning, everyone. Morning, Stuart G, Creatorholic. Welcome, and listen. Hello, if you're listening on podcast. Apologies for the last 24 hours, not giving you any coffee moaning. Still getting Vlogmas every night. Hope that's entertaining. You've also got a Nadia Unfiltered landing tonight, and I believe if I'm looking at things right and I'm editing things in the order that I'm editing things, I think you've got a taste test incoming tonight, which will be fun. So what are we talking about today? Well, ironically, we're talking about something that the nurses in my mother's hospital really gave me a warning about, especially given the fact that I have asthma. I keep getting texts from the doctors. Could flu make the NHS collapse? We talked about flu earlier this week. We're heading towards a bit of a peak. Are the potentially incoming strikes that the doctors are looking to vote on, could that make it worse? I know the nurses and the medical staff around my mum are very concerned about the scale of things and how they could develop. And of course, when you have an elderly relative in hospital, the last thing you want to hear is flu. Though I do believe my mum we managed to get the doctors to visit my mum to give her a flu vaccine at home. So I can see all the messages coming in. Thank you very much for the messages, read my mum. So we're going to talk about, could flu make the NHS collapse? Or is this a lot of hyperbole? Is it a lot of exaggeration? Is it Wes Streeting just not wanting them to strike? Could anything ever be as bad as COVID? And also, I want to ask you guys, given that flu is knocking about, I wore a mask into the hospital, not because I had symptoms, but because I didn't want to catch anything. And I find it really odd, the way in which government advice, if you look into it, and I've got a story I want to read through the official advice. Why is there such a reluctance to recommend people wearing masks? It's of no cost emotionally to anyone. If I see someone with a mask, I don't stand there and go, well, you fucking arsehole. I just think, oh, maybe they've got something, or maybe they don't want to get something. But I don't understand why one would actively be a bit po-faced and tight-lipped about suggesting wearing a mask. Is it because it might be too reminiscent, or is it an infringement on civil liberties? I'd just like to know why people get their knickers in such a twist, and why it can't just be a personal choice. NATO says, prepare for war. Do you remember Mark Rutte? The daddy's home. The guy who went so far up Donald Trump's rectum, he became a suppository. Mark Rutte, head of NATO. Prepare for war. We need to be prepared for war. We must fight like our grandparents fought. He's got very excited, very excitable. Triggering. Yeah, I think it might be triggering, but we'll talk about the mask thing. Mask rage. I'm rageful that people have an opinion. It's just like, but we're going to talk about flu. We're going to talk about NHS strikes. Should they go and strike the doctors? Should you wear a mask? Is it a red rag to a bull? A mask? And is Rutte right to say, prepare for war? Everyone prepare for war. Yeah, daddy's home. Daddy's home. We're also going to talk about, because we weren't live yesterday, we're going to talk about the USA wanting to check, vet, and explore 5 years worth of anyone traveling into America on any tourist visas, social media. This essentially guarantees the likes of me or Nadia will not be able to travel to the States. I mean, and this is less about whether if you've posted something critical of America, surely that's your right in a democracy to be critical of America. If you have a humanitarian heart and you don't like the way in which America has funded, fueled, supported, and allowed for a genocide, then that's going to be viewed as anti-American. So, could this be? This is one of many things. It's censorship at an extraordinary level. It's another means potentially of delivering on Bibi Netanyahu's desire to deal with the algorithm and everyone. By threatening this, it will remove the impetus, I'd have thought, with a whole swathe of people to post anything critical of America on their social media. So is this another way of ensuring people behave? You're not allowed in unless you behave. Or will people just vote with their feet and go fuck yourselves? We're not coming to you. But I can only imagine that fundamentally and ultimately, it will not benefit America. So we're going to talk about that. And I've also got I just slipped it into the title, Tucker is no hero. I just want to share, we more and more of what Tucker Carlson says, I find myself agreeing with in regards to Israel, in regards to Gaza, the genocide, etc. But I also want to play you Alana Hadid's thoughts on this, which is we mustn't sort of give him a pass and congratulate him and say, oh, Tucker Carlson's so great. Oh, Candace Owens great. No, these people who hold really quite reprehensible values in other areas. So, for example, we were watching Candace Owens the other night, and in the middle of it, she did a reading of an advert. And the advert was all pro-life. And I was like, oh, my God, Jesus, it's easy to forget that because you agree with them on one thing, they represent so many other ludicrous ideas, thoughts, and ideologies. I prefer to think of it more like this. They happen to agree with us on something rather than us finding them agreeable. Passive aggressive immediately says, I have to go to America next May. Not looking forward to it. And now I may get arrested because of my social media. Well, that's interesting, passive aggressive. So you're just going to go anyway and see what happens. When there's a silent pause, it's me drinking my coffee. MeTube only applies to the 42 countries in the VWP. What's the VWP? I have to go to passive aggressive. No, you'll be denied on ESTA because the checks are done as part of, it's part of the ESTA application. The ESTA application is the standard tourist visa application that you have to fill in. So anyway, those are our topics. You won't be arrested because the checks are part of, oh, I see. So what MeTube's saying there is, it's not like you're going to turn up to America and then be denied access. They will do the check as part of your application. So you just might be refused an ESTA, but what a pain, eh? And I mean, imagine the worries. And it's 5 years. Anyway, well, maybe we should start with that. 5 years. 5 years worth going back. And I think I read somewhere that they wanted to check the past 10 years of emails. I mean, that's pretty hard because, one has to clear out one's email cache every now and then. So I'm not entirely sure you'd be able to go back for 10 years because we've got so many emails. Visa waiver program. I've heard people here take burner phones if they have to cross the border. Yes, but I think when you make the application on your ESTA, they're probably going to try and connect your name, your date of birth with your details online. Dawny Harvey, we have, according to a psychic, a comet destroying the world before Christmas. Trump running the world, the UK preparing for war. I'm not sure a mask is going to help either way. Well, on that note, interestingly, I am doing another chat with the Harvard professor, Avi Loeb, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Yes, 4 p.m. UK time. And I haven't yet decided if it's live or a pre-record. But I'm doing a last chat with him before this interstellar object passes closely to the Earth on the 19th of December. Who knows? We could all go up in smoke. I mean, if I'm brutally honest, as I look at 2025 and the hell and the horror and the fucking agony of it all, I sort of look towards 2026 with a very empty sense of emptiness. I just sort of think, you know what? Maybe perhaps I'd rather a fucking comet hit the Earth. I mean, we're being led by absolute fucking monsters. How much of a when you've got Trump and all our leaders, the ineffectual leaders that we've got, how much of a fear or worry would a comet or an alien be? If NATO are saying, Hutchie boy, we need to prepare for war, they are as bad as Putin. Well, we'll get to that. So anyway, on the story of the not being able to travel to the UK, some are criticizing this as censorship, pure and simple. Critics hit out at Trump plan to vet visitors' social media. Let me just find the headlines for you. Here you go. Censorship, pure and simple. US could ask foreign tourists for 5-year social media history before entry. Just as a matter of course, let me just ask you guys, who here has posted anything critical of America in the last, or Trump in the last 5 years? And if so, I'd just be, maybe you don't have an Instagram account, or maybe you don't do social media, maybe you're just a sort of a more passive consumer of it. But has anyone here posted something that they would be like, ooh, how do they find it? Musical chimp, yeah. Stuart G, okay, well done. Me Too, yes, but even Canadian citizens crossing into the States who are permitted still are nervous about getting random searches. Gabrielle, me. Joe McKenna, me. Hutchie Boy says me. Me Too, I read the document yesterday. It's not just the traveler's history. You have to submit email and phone numbers of relatives too. Yeah. I mean, if I'm really honest, though, the last one I did when I visited last year, Biden was in power. When you fill out the ESTA form, last year it said, is there anything you want to tell us about your social media? And I answered, yeah, it's quite cool. It didn't flag up as a problem. They didn't ask for any of my handles. They didn't ask for the names. They didn't ask for my account details. But yeah, so look, some organizations such as Amnesty International have called the plan wildly out of proportion to any legitimate border need. This moment shows how slippery slopes on human rights suddenly become cliffs. Years of unchecked data trawling at borders, including the UK's, have led us here. That's Amnesty International. The Big Brother Watch campaign group called the plan the latest evidence of the Trump administration's enthusiasm for shredding civil liberties in the name of border control and national security. I mean, surely ultimately this is a case of them shooting themselves in the foot, isn't it? I mean, surely just fewer people are going to travel. But I guess at the same time, fewer people will travel. But at the same time, more people perhaps will just not post critical content. It's another, isn't it? Is it not another indirect way, well, direct way of preventing criticism, sort of basically holding a gun to visitors' heads, saying, you criticize us, you ain't coming in. I mean, it's, anyway, when Donald Trump was asked about this, he was particularly incoherent and non-specific.
Proposal from DHS that would see tourists from a lot of countries have to hand over 5 years of social media history to get a tourist visa. Are you concerned at all that if that's implemented, there would be a decline in tourism next year? And what sort of material do you think is...
We're doing so well. We just want people to come over here and safe. We want safety, we want security, we want to make sure we're not letting the wrong people come into our country. We're getting rid of a lot of bad ones from jails, from mental institutions, drug dealers. And we're getting a lot of bad people, murderers.
I love the way at the end there, he just sort of, a lot of bad people, murderers. You just sort of remember a murderer is a bad person. So are pedophiles. Yeah, maybe you don't know that one. Pedophiles, murderers, they're bad. We don't like bad people. Nobody deals with bad people better than me. Tourism will tank, says Oxidus. America is hosting the World Cup next year. That's a lot of investigation on their part. Me Too gives us some interesting detail. Palantir, the company. Palantir's AI solutions now handle the ESTA vetting workload, hence the ramp up. And Palantir as a company, aren't they inextricably entwined with a lot of the technology that Israel has used to kill Palestinians or conduct their genocide? And so could we be looking at yet another means or method of gathering data on countless different online accounts, Instagram accounts that can be popped onto some kind of data list that in about 10 years time, we will get knocks on the door from robots. saying, we understand that you posted this, that, and the other. I mean, this is Judge Dredd. This is dystopian shit. This is frightening. And at the helm of it all, you've got a blubbery mass of orange stupidity, wibbly wobbliness in the form of Donald Trump that's going, yeah, well, we got murderers. If I just keep saying the word murderer, then I can justify everything. Everyone's a murderer, including Pete Hegseth, who's the war minister. Palantir are Zionists, Robert Marriott. I mean, it's all inextricably entwined, isn't it? It's why, I hate to say it for any movie fans who are sort of in this halcyon romantic era, like I used to be, of, oh, the cinema. Everyone needs and must want Netflix to win the Warner Brothers bid. Stop pretending to worry about the cinematic experience. That is going to pale into insignificance when and if the Ellison family, the guy who, you know, owns TikTok now, if they get their hands on Warner Brothers, it's yet more Zionist Trump bilge controlling everything. And things are becoming more dystopian almost minute by minute. Palantir, Oxidus, is responsible for the AI targeting in Gaza. So this is the same technology, the same company, the same tech that's going to be going through all of our ESTA applications. So here's my advice. Don't make the ESTA application so they don't have your details. Though, of course, they only have to go onto Instagram and find it. So it's just, you couldn't make this shit up, but you don't need to make this shit up because it's actually happening. So we don't need to worry about whether you could or couldn't make it up. It's real and it's here and it's staying. It's just petrifying. And on that note, there is a piece that I pulled. I was going to put it in the title. The Telegraph has got this piece entitled "Robots Could Groom Children and Trigger War with Humans." This is a Europol, which is a sort of European type sort of criminal agency, police agency, EU police agency. Europol has suggested that the future could be one of angry mobs of unemployed citizens rioting against hordes of service robots that have stolen their jobs. Police officers armed with robo-freezer guns, nano net grenades could shoot down swarms of drones deployed by terrorists to attack electricity and water supplies. This is a 48-page Europol document that details how law enforcement will need to tackle robots and unmanned systems in a dystopian future. It is Judge Dredd-esque. And I did pull that story because, let me just give you the headline. Here you go. Robots could groom children. But I tell you, the part of this that kind of struck me was how we were talking earlier this week. We were talking earlier this week about the idea that, you know, more and more teenagers are turning to AI as a form of sort of therapy and mental health support. And then you start to realize, that's how robots could groom children, couldn't they? If you are turning towards tech that is controlled and run by unpalatable individuals, then the precious content of our children's brains could go awry. And I'm now going to show you just on this, just to get us prepared for 2026. I'm going to play you footage. It's silent footage, but I'm going to play you footage of a humanoid robot fighting with the CEO. You might have seen this footage. I've stripped the music off it. It's a promotional video. Check this out. If we really want to know what the future holds. Engineering. We're watching a Chinese CEO being kicked by a humanoid robot in a simulated battle. They're quite, I mean, everyone's finding it very funny. Here he is, CEO, strapping up, putting on his stomach thing, putting on his shin pads, standing opposite a humanoid robot. And get ready. Fucking hell. That is a robot. That is a robot. And he finds it funny. What do you think? Brilliant. Yes, okay. I've just been hurt by a robot. Things can only get better. No, they can't. Okay, let's move through to, I think that looks fake. It's CNN. CNN ran the footage. It's real. Someone said, I mean, apparently some companies that went out to China, I think American or British AI companies went out to China. They were so staggered, afraid, and fearful of what they saw because they realized how behind the curve they were. But okay, let's come closer to home for a moment. Could flu make the NHS collapse. Double whammy of flu and strikes are a risk to patients, Streeting says. This is the fear. Strikes could collapse. Flu hit NHS amid worst crisis since COVID. Now, when we talked about flu earlier this week, a number of you guys are saying, oh, it's just another I mean, you know, at the bottom of all of the kind of advice is get your vaccines, get your vaccines. And I think there's always a strong feeling that, oh, is this just another kind of tap out to make people get vaccines, ensure that vaccines are important, make sure the pharmaceuticals are still selling, etc. That's part of it. That is forever part of any medical story. But what I wanted to ask, a couple of things. Should the doctors go on strike or not? What do you think? They've already been given a 29.8% pay rise, I believe. They still claim that that's not in keeping with inflation. It's so far backdated. It sounds a lot, but it isn't a lot. Do you think that they should or shouldn't go on strike? As you're deciding, I'm just going to play you Wes Streeting on LBC.
It should always be a last resort. And I could not understand, and still cannot, why we've already had 2 rounds of strike action following a 28.9% pay rise. I cannot understand why, when there is this jobs offer on the table that we've put together at breakneck speed through emergency legislation, why you and your colleagues might still vote for strike action now. But for goodness sake, at this stage, voting against this offer, voting to go on strike, it's self-defeating for doctors. It puts untold pressure on other NHS staff who are going to be working in those conditions. And I do not make this point lightly or casually. It risks serious harm to patients.
Does it risk death?
I cannot guarantee. Honestly, Nick, I don't want to catastrophise or sensationalise. I cannot sit here and look you in the eye and tell you that no patient will come to harm or fatal harm. I cannot make that guarantee.
Is he catastrophizing, or does he have a valid point, Wes Streeting? Or is this all part of his mission, which I think is curious that him and Nick Ferrari have become so buddy-buddy? Is this part of Wes Streeting's mission? Not an unwholesome one, because I can't fucking stand Keir Starmer. But is this part of his mission to kind of demonstrate leadership, firmness, strength? You know, he's kind of in control and all the rest of it. I find it always so bizarre and perverse when they say, well, we can't. People will, whether we like it or not, die of flu. The last place any of us want people, I don't want my mother in hospital when there's a flu epidemic. The nurse that was looking after her said to me, you really want to be careful. The flu, the flu graph is going to go through the roof in the next 3, 4, 5 days. She wasn't saying my mother has to be in hospital. She's that ill. But she was recommending this in terms of visitors, visiting, coming in, whether we know stuff and what we know and all that kind of stuff, especially also with having asthma. But you can't attribute anything directly to anything. You could by extension attribute any deaths amounting from the strike, depending on your position, to the systematic kind of underpayment of doctors potentially. But I noticed MeTube mentioned this. Who thinks that really doctors should be privy to the same limitations or limits on strike action that, say, the police or firemen or emergency responders are under? I.e., if you're a doctor, if you are a surgeon, if you are responsible for people's health, you forego the right to strike in terms of your conditions. It seems and feels and sounds relatively sensible. But again, one will never know the extent to which, and unfortunately, I think what's baked into this story is when the government and our leaders have so got, say, the issues around COVID wrong. And what they got wrong with COVID were twofold. On the one hand, they perhaps exaggerated things too much in some areas, and in others, they under-exaggerated in others. But when you have leadership and governments that kind of make such a mess of it, I find it really hard when I hear anything come out of any politician's mouth to not think that they're trying to manipulate us in some way, and they're not trying to kind of heighten tensions or create a kind of conflict between, sections or sectors, or apportion the blame to someone else, apportion the blame to doctors. And, it's forever and a day, isn't it? Blame someone else all the time. Musical Chimp, the doctors wouldn't be striking unless it was a last resort. And I think that's an important thing to say. If you're striking and you work in a care sector, to all intents and purposes, then it must be one of the most difficult choices. I always remember when I was younger and I was at school, during the 80s, a lot of teachers' strikes happened regarding pay. And I always remember many teachers sort of saying things like, why would we want to endanger the education of our children? It's a last resort. And many people who go on strike, for them, it is a last resort. So although the numbers can look quite stark, 29.8% pay rise, wow. Unless we actually know how that relates to pay rises historically, if any they've had, and how that relates sort of, in the marketplace of doctors, you can't really be a true judge of it. Oxidus magicus, everyone has the right to withhold labor, simple as that. Are we also saying doctors don't have the right to retire early or go on holiday? Fair point. Me too. Doctors are not the only ones trying to make up their wages for the wage slowdown since 2008. Should we all strike? Well, maybe some would possibly suggest withdrawal of labor is absolutely everyone's right. Otherwise, you're enslaved, aren't you? In some degree, it's just a thought. Doctors save lives. We need to look after them, says Hutchie Boy. They always have a certain amount of doctors on, even when on strike. We went through it in New Zealand hospitals. Lizzie Russell, the government want the public to turn their backs on supporting the nurses and doctors by saying all of this. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, a sort of desire almost to de-romanticize almost the NHS, de-romanticize doctors, perhaps. But it is intriguing yet again, isn't it? A Labour leader or a Labour politician, Labour government, attacking pensioners, the disabled, people with mental health issues, and now doctors. Got the list of unexpected targets and enemies gets longer and longer. But that was Wes Streeting. Let's turn to Mark Rutte. Let's really cheer ourselves up with the prospect of war. Okay, simple question. Oh no, hang on, before we move on, masks. Should people wear a mask? I mean, I don't think for a minute anyone should say it's compulsory. But here's the question. Does anyone here have a strong feeling about someone wearing a mask if they've chosen to do it for either to stop themselves spreading flu or disease or to stop themselves getting it? Do you get cross? Does it aggravate you when you see someone wearing a mask? Because I don't understand why it would. And I'm not suggesting necessarily that the government is, that's the case with many people. But I don't understand why the government doesn't just say something along the lines of course, the mistake is to think, like we did in COVID, that masks cure everything. They don't. But to kind of not sort of just really put it out there, yeah, just wear a mask. Wear a mask if it makes you feel better. If you've got a cold, just wear a mask. What's the problem? If it's not absolutely mandatory, why not just sort of suggest, yeah, it will help. It will help a bit. It has to. It's like saying putting a fucking thing in front of your face won't help, but of course it will. If you breathe, and I'll just put my hand there, then it's stopped some of it, hasn't it? It only protects those around you, not yourself. So if you've got flu or if you've got symptoms, then it's a good thing to do, right? Hold them into yourself rather than spreading them around. I just don't understand it. But the reason I ask that is when you dig into it, there's a sort of conflict between what the NHS says and what the government says. An NHS leader has said that people who are unwell with flu must wear a mask in public, whereas the government have said if you need to go out while sick, you should only consider wearing a mask. Okay, well, here's the question. If you are ill with flu, do you think it is your civic responsibility to wear a mask? If the NHS have said it, but the government are saying, well, that's all right, it's up to you. It's freedom of choice. Yeah, we'll give you freedom of choice in this curious one little area. Ophidia 26, I've been sick for 3 weeks and I really don't want to spread it. Mask up all, Alison Barber. Lizzie Russell, it reduced exposure, though it's not about stopping all of the virus. No, absolutely not. Stuart, no, I just think I better not get too near them. Yeah. If I have flu, I'm not going out at all. I'm in bed. Two of my friends have both got COVID, says Toffee Apple. I don't care, says Silkani. It's a personal choice. With the flu going about, I am probably going to wear a mask home on the train just in case. Yeah, I mean, if there's no science to say that it stops you from getting anything, then just let people wear them if it makes them feel safer. But if there's proof that it stops the spread of flu, I think recommending wearing it when and if you're ill and you're having to go out is fine. No, it's a personal choice to wear a mask. Yeah. Okay. I just thought I'd ask you. Let's have a listen to Mark Rutte, shall we? Daddy's home. Yeah, we all need to go to war. Yeah, our grandparents fought. We need to fight. Yeah, fighting on the beaches. I don't know where else the beach.
To be ready. Because at the end of this first quarter of the 21st century, conflicts are no longer fought at arm's length. Conflict is at our door. Russia has brought war back to Europe. And we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
I don't know why. Does anyone else feel this? I've got this feeling that Rutte, is his name not Donald? What's his Thomas Rutte? Mark Rutte. I don't know why. Okay, I'm just going to float a thought, guys. Okay, you don't want anyone to die anywhere. We don't want any conflict anywhere. I'm a little bit tired of us all being told there's the prospect of war across all of Europe because of the regional conflict of Ukraine and Russia, when issues on both sides of the Ukrainian-Russia conflict, the West breached and broke promises they made to Russia. Russia have broken and breached promises they made to Ukraine. But I get slightly uncomfortable and frustrated and annoyed that we are all told to prepare for war like our grandparents did it by yet more white men in suits who, when I listen to Rutte and I listen to all of the leaders of these countries in Europe, I think war could kind of work for you guys, but war, you're not the ones who are going to go to war. You're not the ones whose industries or livelihoods are going to be as profoundly affected as ordinary people. So it's all well and good standing there saying, prepare for the spectre of war, when you're Rutte, who's like, daddy's home and probably has a nice house in, wherever in Switzerland. Where is he from? I don't know. Dutch? Is he Dutch? Or Rotterdam? I don't know why I'm beginning to feel, and I don't want to get all conspiracy on this, but I am going to go there. I'm just beginning to feel that the West, developed countries, have a vested interest now in the inevitability of war. Oh, look, humanitarianly says NATO is war hungry. I feel if I walk into a room and I meet someone, I have an instinct about, I try and listen to, what's your first impressions? What's your sense of someone? And if I had to tell you what my sense of NATO is, I think it's interested in conflict. I think America is interested in conflict for financial gain. I think Europe's interested in, NATO's interested in conflict. I think there's this presumed idea that because he's the head of NATO, he just wants us all to be safe. I don't necessarily agree. You only have to look at the complete hypocrisy of the situation with Israel and Palestine, Gaza and the West Bank, and the lack of kind of, pushback, the lack of criticism, the lack of sanctions, the desire now still to just get past the inconvenience of a genocide that's it's a bit mucky, it doesn't look good, but hey, let's just push on. I just feel that there is in saying this, there's very little effort. Why isn't he using the rhetoric of let's all talk and not have war, rather than saying, well, we all need to get prepared for war. Yeah, like our grandparents, we need to get ready for war. Use different language. Who's this benefiting? Who is this benefiting? Arms manufacturers, expenditure. It's just, look, peace is bad for their pocket. Yeah, totally agree, Joan of Shark. It feels like there is a depopulation plan in action, says Musical Chamber. Ophidia 26 is constantly in the news here that we need to be prepared for Russia to attack us. And this isn't to say that no one's sitting here going, Russia's some fucking idyllic nation. Every superpower is self-interested. Every superpower has a desire and a need for expansion, for control, for profit, for preeminence above other superpowers. But you know what? There should be more language of conciliation. rather than, oh yeah, we need to prepare for war. It's already happening. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Mitchell. If I hear we're already at war, it's like, fucking hell. Well, let's stop it then. I just find this absolutely takes us nowhere, and I think we always all talk about the kind of the trigger happy war sort of appetite of Russia, with a war appetite of China. But what about the war appetite and the jingoistic, militaristic nonsense coming out of NATO's mouths? And I mean, look at America too. You know, they want to stop wars everywhere, but we want to arm everyone. We want to invade Venezuela. We possibly want to own Greenland. You know, it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all a load of old rubbish. Anyway, Thomas Rutte. Rutte. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Final clip. I just want to play you Tucker. No hero. I just want to play you this clip. It's a little bit of Tucker Carlson interviewing. Oh my God, I forgot her name. Francesca Albanese. Sorry. A little bit of him interviewing Francesca Albanese and discovering. I mean, he's being kind of facetious, but he's sort of saying, "Look, what have you done, Francesca, that's so bad that you've been basically sanctioned and pilloried and demonized and described as anti-Semitic and Hamas supporter and da-da-da." So Tucker Carlson is asking the question, "Yeah, what have you done exactly?" So here we go.
My daughter, you wouldn't even realize that she's the daughter of an Italian because she's American educated. She goes to the American school. She's raised according to American values, more than Italian values, I can tell you. And this is a betrayal for us from the United States. Where is the freedom of thought? Where is freedom of expression?
I don't really know how to respond to what you're telling me. I just want to ask you one last time. Is there anything you're leaving out? Did you send money to Hamas? Did you shoot at the IDF? Are you secretly married to Nasrallah? Or like what? I don't understand how you could have been treated like this without actively aiding a terror group.
Look, the only one who's aiding and abetting someone else committing crime is the United States.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear.
I'm sorry to agree with you on that. So who did this to you exactly, and how do you get it fixed?
Well, I know that the United Nations is working hard behind the scenes to have the sanctions removed. There have been tons and tons of pledges to the United States from my special rapporteurs, independent experts of the United Nations, many states. But here's the system. The system is very weak at the moment because the United States is using its power, its leverage to bend the arm of the system, and by doing that, it will make everyone, including American citizens, less and less protected.
It doesn't seem to be acting on behalf of its own people. I don't know what this has to do with what's happening in the United States. It seems like we are completely casting aside the rule of law, fairness, decency on behalf of another country. Maybe I'm missing something.
Look, for a long time, I've been thinking that Israel had the capacity to exert so much influence on the United States, and I couldn't figure out how. I don't think it's that, in the sense there is something deeper, and it's the fact that we are fooled by this idea of states representing us. No, eventually states are in the hands of powers, military power, economic, financial power, and the power of the algorithm. And this is why today the imagining states as responding, serving the interest of people, it's a fallacy.
Just very, very interesting. And I think what Tucker Carlson does there, which is very good. And in a minute, I'm going to play something by Alana Hadid, which says, let's not all idolize Tucker Carlson, his values, his ideas around gay rights. He's a homophobe, his politics around trans, not to be in any way subscribe to his ideas around life versus women's rights, not to be subscribed to. The way I choose to step around this, it's not about I make an exception for those values in order to like Tucker Carlson. No, the way I look at this is Tucker Carlson is in alignment with those of us who have been fighting for or articulating the inherent unfairness, the inherent injustice surrounding Israel's treatment and destruction of the Palestinians, and by extension, America's collusion in that and financing of that, supporting that, and actually, essentially, because they're the power behind Israel, committing genocide. This genocide that has happened to the Palestinians is both an American and Israeli genocide against Arabs. But what I think, so he is in alignment with us, for want of a better expression, rather than we are forgiving him his other egregious values in order to agree with him. Just not the case. The fact that he's telegraphing these ideas on this issue to his people and his core following, it's great. It means we don't have to worry about it. It means he can get on with that, and he can sort of hopefully galvanize yet more people across a broader political spectrum to recognize that killing Arabs en masse isn't a good thing, or a fair thing, or a humane thing. But what I do think he does very well, and I do think this is part of his success, is he plays dumb, and and I think he signs up to a motif that I think is really important when you're interviewing someone, is never go into an interview with someone assuming whoever's going to watch this interview is fully across everything to do with that person. For any of us who know who Francesca Albanese is or knows what her values are, you know that. But, by playing dumb, it's a little bit like when you're directing a documentary or something. Of course, you know the subject that you're making the film about, but you have to remember that there are viewers or people who are going to watch this who don't. And so by sort of taking yourselves back to the bare, essential, simplistic, almost naive, toddler-like questions, it helps just showcase how ludicrous and how corrupt and how awful things have become. So I think it's actually very clever what he does there by saying, but I don't understand. Have you married Hamas? He's basically saying you must have done something really egregiously wrong to be sanctioned in the way that you have. Well, no, she hasn't. She's just stood up for human rights. Something that, forever and a day we say about Nadia. She has fought for, or kind of tried to represent, the appalling behavior of a nation that we're all supposed to hold in high esteem and say nothing for fear of being called anti-Semitic. She's just held a torch to the feet of a nation that has in the last year been the single biggest killer of children on the planet. So suddenly fighting for children's rights is somehow anti-Semitic? If that's the case, then I'm anti-Semitic. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's utterly farcical. But in the spirit of balance, I do want to play this because I think Alana Hadid has a really interesting take on this. So listen to this.
Everyone getting super excited about Tucker Carlson visiting Palestinian refugees and amputees in Qatar. And listen, I get it. The far right finally acknowledging Palestinian humanity feels like a plot twist that even Hollywood would have rejected as unrealistic. But if the bar for human rights is now so low that Tucker Carlson looks like a hero, we're cooked. Yes, what he's doing right now is the right thing. Showing up, bearing witness, talking to Palestinians who have lost their homes, their families, their limbs, that matters. But let's not develop sudden, convenient amnesia. This is the same Tucker Carlson, the guy who called immigrants dirty, pushed the Great Replacement theory, mocked refugees, and spent years dehumanizing people he now stands beside for a segment. That Tucker Carlson, remember him? So when I see people cheering like he's having some profound moral evolution, I'm not thinking, yay, go Tucker. I'm thinking, damn, why is the bar so low? Because it's giving those dad videos, the ones that are like, I'm showing my daughter Paris so your dusty son doesn't think taking her to Olive Garden is a vacation. Except here, everyone else is the daughter, and Tucker is that dusty ass dude taking us to the Olive Garden. And somehow, people are acting like he flew us to the Maldives. We should not be lionizing a despot because he finally got something that is so obviously right. We should be demanding so much more from governments, from institutions, journalists, and leaders who actually claim to care about human rights. If Tucker Carlson doing the bare minimum, visiting amputees and refugees who have been suffering a live stream genocide is what passes for bravery in 2025, that says everything about how catastrophically the world has failed Palestinians. Let's please not raise him up. Let's raise the bar.
I couldn't disagree with anything she says. I think what she says, it's really important to remind ourselves. I think we've all fallen foul. We can all fall foul of the do you remember the relief we all felt when Piers Morgan appeared to be stepping in the right direction? And yet at the same time, yes, there's the argument, is it for clicks? Is it for monetization? Is it for views? Is it for, whatever? And yes, you can argue that relative to their sort of, their core demographic, their safe viewership. Wow, this is bold, this is brave, this is everything. But it's important not to forget that actually, no, as she says, the bar is so spectacularly low. I mean, in another way of looking at it is it's so obviously wrong what Israel is, so disproportionately evil, and one should be so unable to be able to justify, explain away, or legitimize what Israel has done. It's so egregious, it's so wrong, that even the likes of Tucker Carlson have to admit it. That's the other way to get there. Even the likes of Tucker Carlson have to admit it. And of course, that's not forgetting that there is all sorts of other agendas there. That, their priority is America up and above absolutely everyone and anyone else in the world. So yeah, it's important not to just kind of, blow smoke up the likes of Tucker Carlson's arse. So on that note, I'm going to sign off, guys. Thank you so much as ever for your comments, your contributions, your thoughts. Always make this a sort of much more three-dimensional conversation than just us and just the clips that we play in. Please hit the subscribe button or the like button, hit the notification bell. Vlogmas will be landing later. Pepper is doing very well. She's in the other room with one of my daughters. I will keep you updated on Nanny Di as and when we are updated and we have news when her tests have come through. Thanks again for all your messages. And as I say, Nadia Unfiltered is landing tonight. Yeah. Okay, guys, have a good day. Have a lovely day. One step nearer to Christmas. All right. Take care. Bye.